we're all talking about immigration.
Yes.
And that's never happened before in my lifetime. Well, open borders is gone.
Open borders is gone.
Some of those northern countries are deporting people now en masse. I think the biggest thing that happened in this country this year is suddenly this year we're all talking about immigration.
Yes.
And that's never happened before in my lifetime.
Yep.
There's always been people I've known talking about immigration, but they were always called, again, fascists, Nazis, racists, whatever. But even the polite society now are talking about immigration. Even government departments are releasing figures we never thought they would release on immigration.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest change that's happened this year.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And I was just reflecting on this when you were mentioning you're going to talk about this, because I'm sure I remember a conversation where I mentioned immigration and somebody said you're a racist. I'm sure it happened.
No.
And I can't remember what happened. I think I said, well, what do you mean by that? Or what? I can't remember the conversation. But that conversation was happening a year ago and over a year ago.
Yep.
If anybody on the TV mentioned immigration, they were called a racist. Actually, no, it wasn't me. It was. This shows I'm having false memories. I think it was an actor, and I think it was a guest mentioning immigration, and the actor just wildly called this guy a racist. It wasn't Keanu Reeves, but it was somebody like Keanu.
Are you talking about? He played Batman. Was it the?
Yes, it was Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
He was on the Bill Maher
show. Yeah.
With the philosopher guy who's not religious, has debates with other people.
Jordan Peterson.
No, and they were talking about Islam.
Yes.
And he said, used to are just nasty.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we're talking about Islam.
Yeah. That was it. It was about Islam.
And he called them Islamophobic, and he said they were disgusting and nasty and racist.
Yeah.
And they were saying, we're discussing a religion.
Yeah.
We've not called anyone anything. We're not talking about any individual.
But the point is, those words were bandied about. Yeah. Those words were bandied about without any substance behind them at all. So you were free to call somebody a racist if they mentioned immigration. Now, fast forward a year, everybody's talking about it. But more than that, everybody's talking about things are happening in Europe now, aren't they, basically? So a year ago, nobody would talk about immigration, reducing immigration, whatever. Within that year, we've seen a major political shift in Europe. And we are...
Open borders is gone.
Open borders is gone.
Some of those northern countries are deporting people now en masse. Deporting people to places where we can't deport them to, like Afghanistan. The Swedes have deported people there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So there's lots of things going on in Europe.
Yeah. Borders have closed. They're now deporting people. They're stopping immigration now. Some countries have actually just said, right, we're stopping
benefits apart from soap, bread, and a bed.
Correct. Yeah, and we've seen right-wing parties. We call them right-wing, but I call them centrist parties coming to power on the basis of this. So there's this massive shockwave happening in Europe. So the bleeding heart liberals in England who previously looked to Europe and say, look how fantastic, can't do that anymore. So they can't now reference Europe as that. So now in England, in the UK, people are talking about it. And they're talking about it openly.
And about time too.
Yes.
The public have finally caught up with people like me and you who've seen this going on for far too long.
Yeah.